I'm Jaden from XLR Security, and in this video, I'm going to cover everything there is to know about the Reyee brand of networking equipment. Reyee offers a variety of networking equipment designed for small and medium-sized business use, as well as for home users who want something a bit more powerful than your run-of-the-mill consumer networking equipment. In terms of quality and performance, the equipment that Reyee offers rivals other commercial networking brands such as TP-Link and Ubiquiti. Globally, Reyee has a huge selection of products, but in North America and in Canada where we're located, their selection is a bit more limited. This will likely change in the future. However, what they currently offer is enough to cover most of the networking jobs that you'll run into. Reyee products fall into four main categories. First, we have their routers, of which we have two different types of models in stock. One is an all-in-one wireless router with 4 LAN ports, and the other is a PoE router with 8 LAN ports and 2 WAN ports. Both routers have support for OpenVPN and WireGuard. You can also reassign up to 3 of the LAN ports into WAN ports, allowing you to connect multiple internet connections together at the same time. If one of the networks stops working, as it often does here in Canada, the second internet connection will immediately step in to keep you connected. Reyee also has managed PoE switches. These are available with 8, 16, and 24 ports. These switches support advanced functions such as VLAN configuration, loop prevention, and DHCP snooping. You can enable or disable individual ports, enable or disable the PoE on specific ports, and quickly reboot an individual port. And all of this can be done remotely through the Ruijie Cloud portal. Reyee PoE switches also support a PoE watchdog function, allowing it to detect when a device becomes unresponsive and automatically rebooting the port after some time. There's also a long-distance transmission mode, which lowers the speed of the port to 10 megabits per second, but improves the signal integrity, increasing the transmission distance from 100 meters up to 250 meters. All these features make Reyee's managed switches the perfect way to power your security cameras. You can monitor the status of each port through the cloud interface and even label individual ports to make troubleshooting and management easier in the future. The third type of product from Reyee are their wireless access points. We currently have 3 types available: 1 ceiling, 1 in-wall, and 1 outdoor access point rated for -30 degrees Celsius. These are Wi-Fi 6 access points, offering incredibly quick network speeds with low latency for office use or heavy gaming. We have 1 installed in our office, and I usually get around 450 megabits per second of download and upload on my phone. Although these access points do not support the latest Wi-Fi 7 protocol, it's not a huge deal. Wi-Fi 6 is more than fast enough for most residential, office, and warehouse scenarios. Plus, most of the devices on the market still do not support Wi-Fi 7 at this time. The final type of product that Reyee carries are their wireless bridges. These are point-to-point transmitters that come pre-paired out of the box. They're easy to use. All you need to do is power them up, point them at each other, and they will automatically connect. They're mainly used to bridge the network between a location where you have internet and a location where you don't, such as a farmhouse connecting to a nearby workshop, or to bridge multiple buildings together, such as one of our clients did for a plaza in Waterloo. If you want to learn more about the wireless bridges, we have a whole video showcasing the setup from start to finish, including a speed test and a demonstration with a security camera. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check that out afterwards if you're interested. Now, one of the best features with Reyee is that all their products can be managed through the cloud portal. It's completely free to use and doesn't require any special hardware. Any Reyee device can be added to the cloud portal so long as it has an internet connection. Through the cloud portal, you can monitor your devices, perform firmware updates, and configure network settings. This cloud interface is well developed and is constantly being updated behind the scenes with new features and optimizations. Let me give you a quick tour. So to access the cloud interface, simply search for Ruijie Cloud in your web browser. Then it should be the first link, the one that says cloud.ruijienetworks.com. So we'll click on the link, and this brings us into the cloud login page. If you don't have an account, you can go ahead and click here to sign up for one. But I already have an account, so I'll go ahead and log in with my email and password. After logging in, you'll be brought to the home page where you can see all the projects under your account. As you can see here, I have 3 projects on my account, and when I click on one of the projects, this brings us into the Project Management tab, where we can see all devices that have been added to this location. And if we click on one of the products in the network diagram, this will bring us to a more detailed network map, and it will even show us which ports are connected on which devices. And if I hover over one of the devices, we can see the model number, the serial number, and the IP address of the devices. I can then click on one of the devices to see an overview of the settings for that specific device. So when I clicked on the gateway, it shows me an overview of all the devices connected and which ports are connected, how many clients are connected to the network, and even how much PoE power is being utilized by the router. And because it's a PoE router, if I scroll down to the bottom, I can see again which ports are connecting, how much power is being used, and if I want to reset one of the cameras, or if it's an IP phone, you can do the same thing. You just click on PoE reset, and this will reset that specific port's PoE power, and the device should reconnect after about a minute or 2. There are also tons of statistics available if you want to dive deeper into your network. So for example, you can see how much bandwidth is being consumed at any one time, how many users are connected, and you can even see which applications are using the most traffic. And if we go into detailed entries, again, there's a lot of information here if you want to dive in. You can see your ARP table entries, you can see your DHCP user list, and you can even see the routing tables here at the bottom. But if we click exit, then we will go back to our devices list here. Or if we can also click on devices at the top left to see which devices are within this network. So if we click on our access point here, then we can see more statistics, and this is relating to the wireless statistics. And again, all this information is sorted into different graphs and tables, which makes it really easy to get the information that you're trying to find. At the bottom here, we can see all the users which are connected to the specific wireless access point. And if we want to see all users within the entire network, then we can click on the Clients tab, again at the top left. And here we can see every single user. We can see that there are 17 devices connected to the wireless and 11 devices that are connected directly through the wires. And to make it easier to manage the network, I've already added a name for each of the devices. So this will probably not show up automatically. For some devices it will, but for most of the devices it won't. So if you want to name one of your devices, you just have to click on this little pencil icon. And I already know that this is actually my phone. So I'm going to type in the name of this device and type. We can find a smartphone here at the top, and we can choose the vendor as Sony and go ahead and click save, and immediately this will be reflected. Now there are lots of other things you can do in the cloud portal as well. And I'm not going to cover every single option in depth because that would literally take hours. But I'm going to try and cover the main points. So if you want to purchase one of these devices for yourself, or maybe you're already using Reyee, you will pretty much understand what are the most important settings. So when you're setting up a device, either for a customer or for yourself, you have to add it to a project. So you can create a project by clicking on the plus icon here at the top right corner and then selecting Add Project. Or you can go back into this Home tab and then clicking on the blue Add button. Now we're going to enter a name for our project, as well as a management password. And this management password is going to overwrite the default password of admin for all of the equipment that you add to this location. And this is basically the same password that you're going to use if you want to log into the device using the local IP address. Then we're going to choose a scenario for the project. In this case, I'm going to select Office. And finally, we need to select the proper time zone, which in my case is -5 Eastern, Toronto. Yep. Then we're going to click next. Now we need to select which types of devices we're going to be adding to this project. So for this demonstration, I'm going to add an access point and a switch. Then I'm going to click on next. Now, because we're adding an access point, we need to set up at least one Wi-Fi network. So I'm going to go ahead and create my Wi-Fi network here, the SSID. Then I'm going to choose password strong encryption and enter a Wi-Fi password. Then I'm going to click OK. And now it's asking us to add the devices. And the way that we add the devices are through the serial numbers. And the serial numbers are on the box for the devices, as well as on the label physically on the device. So I've already got my serial numbers copied here. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this one. This is my access point. Then I'm going to switch over to the switch tab, and I'm going to enter my other serial number. So this is my 8-port switch. Then I'm going to click on finish. And just like that, our project has been set up. We can see the project here in the project menu, and we can see that our two devices are online. If they're not online right away for you, you may have to wait up to maybe 1 minute or even 2 minutes. And we can verify if we go over to the devices tab here. We can see our two devices just like that we've added. And if we want to add more devices to this project, let's say we forgot to add something, all we have to do is come over to the plus, and then we choose add device. And just like before, we can choose whichever type of devices we're adding, like a gateway or a wireless bridge, and we would choose which project we want to add it to and click next and enter the serial number just like before. So I have a project here with a couple of different devices added. I have a gateway, I have a switch, and I have 2 wireless access points. And since we have a bunch of devices added to the project, I want to go ahead and show you some of the most common settings that you'll run into. So the first setting I want to talk about is called Multi-WAN, and this is also known as WAN failover. This allows you to configure multiple internet connections into a single router, so that if one of the internet goes down, the second connection will take over and keep all your devices online. So to get to the multi-WAN setting, we want to hover over this network-wide tab on the left side and then select multi-WAN. And this is going to show you your current internet setting. Now, the first thing you want to do is add a WAN link. So on Reyee routers, up to 4 of the LAN ports can be configured as WAN ports. So as you can see here, my furthest right port, WAN 0, is a WAN port, and this one I've actually rebinded it to a LAN port, but now I want to set it back to a WAN port. So to do this, you need to click on it. It's going to give you a warning that the device is going to reboot after converting to a WAN port, so that's okay. We're going to click convert. Then we need to set this to either a static IP address, DHCP, or PPPoE. And in most cases, it's going to be set to DHCP, but if you're not sure, this is provided by your internet provider, so you can call them for more information and just to confirm what this needs to be set to. So here's an example from one of our customers who is actually using Rogers as their main internet, and they also have a second WAN port using the LTE backup from TELUS. And under the load balancing settings, what you can get to if you click on wait, you can see that the mode is set to active/backup. So this means that all traffic is actually routing through the primary WAN 1 interface, and when that stops working, all traffic will go to the WAN 2, the backup interface. You can also set this to different modes such as load balancing, so that the traffic will be split between the 2 internet connections. This is useful if you live in an area with limited network speed, so that you can subscribe to 2 internet providers and have them working together to increase your overall network speed and bandwidth. VLAN is another setting that you'll commonly need to configure on your network. It allows you to split up one network into multiple virtual networks so that even if 2 or 3 devices are connected on the same switch, they won't be able to communicate with each other. There are 2 main reasons to have a VLAN. One is for performance and the other is for security. As an example, you can create a specific VLAN for voice over IP phones so the traffic from these devices will have a higher priority, therefore improving the quality and stability of your phone calls. And in terms of security, you can create a separate VLAN for older and potentially vulnerable devices such as printers, outdated CCTV systems, or IoT devices like thermostats and smart plugs. Then you can keep your important files, servers, and computers on a different VLAN so that even if one of your smart devices got hacked, the attacker will not be able to connect to the rest of your network and steal any of your important files or data. To set up a VLAN, we want to go to the project page, then hover over the network-wide icon and select Network. From this page, we can go ahead and add either a wired or a wireless or a voice VLAN. Let's go ahead and create a VLAN together so that you can see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and add a wired VLAN. Then I'm going to create a label for this VLAN, so let's just call it Office. Then we're going to go ahead and enter the VLAN ID, which can be any number between 2 and 4060. So I'm just going to set this as 101. Then we're going to select a default gateway. So it's giving me a default of 192.168.101.1, which I actually don't want. So I'm going to set this to 10.0.101.1. And for the DHCP pool, we can leave this as default. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now we need to assign which ports on the switch will be assigned to this VLAN. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my Manage Switch. Then we're going to click and drag over these ports that we want to set. So in this case, I'm going to make 5, 6, 7, 8 be set to VLAN 101. Then I'm going to click on Next. And this is basically giving us a summary of the changes that we're about to make on our network. So it's basically telling us that we're going to create a VLAN with this IP address, with this subnet mask. This is going to be the DHCP pool. This is going to affect our router, okay, the gateway. Then on the PoE switch, this is exactly what's going to happen. So port 3 to 4 and 10 are configured as VLAN ID 1. And then ports 5 to 8 are configured as VLAN ID 101, and the rest, basically everything's auto configure. And some of the ports are also going to be set as trunk ports with VLAN ID 1 and 101. So it's a lot of things that are happening based on just very few inputs that we put into the settings, which is great, because if we go ahead and hit apply, this is going to apply all of the settings. As you can see, it's telling us exactly what is being applied to our network. And now we just need to wait for the changes to finish. Now we can go ahead and click on Check Network. This will bring us back to our network page, and we can see that we now have 2 VLANs. So the first is our default VLAN, which is going to be for most of our devices. And the second is our office VLAN, which is labeled as VLAN 101, and you can see the IP address and the DHCP pool at the top. And if we wanted to delete this VLAN, we just have to come over to the More at the top right corner and select Delete VLAN. Next, I want to talk about some of the wireless settings that we can access from the Cloud Portal. So if we come over to Device Config, then we go into the Wireless tab, we can see a bunch of different options available. And the most important ones that you're going to use are Wi-Fi, radio, and radio planning, which are already at the top. So let's go to the Wi-Fi page. We can see here that we have a list of wireless SSIDs that have been added already to our network. And we can click on an SSID and either delete it, or we can click edit to change the different settings like the SSID name or the Wi-Fi password. And you can also click at the top here where it says manage, and then you can either enable or disable your Wi-Fi. So if we choose this one to be disabled, it's going to stay in the settings, but it's no longer going to be active. And we can check it again and choose enabled, then it's going to become active again. And if we want to add a new wireless network, we're going to click on the add button at the top right corner. Then all we need to do is enter a Wi-Fi name and a Wi-Fi password. And we also need to set the encryption method. So I recommend setting to WPA2/WPA3. This is going to give you the benefit of the latest encryption, which is WPA3 encryption, while also remaining backwards compatible with older devices that only support WPA2 encryption. If you want to learn a bit more about the different types of Wi-Fi settings, you can check out our previous video on setting up a Reyee wireless access point from scratch. Because in that video, I go into a little bit more detail about how to optimize your wireless network, including how to choose the right channel for your access points, as well as how to improve the speed of your Wi-Fi. Now let's briefly touch on some of the more advanced settings, such as port forwarding, setting up a VPN, and remotely logging into your equipment through the eWeb tunnel. So if you want to do port forwarding, you can find this option under the device config and then gateway and then NAT. So port forwarding is useful if you want to access one of your network devices remotely, such as like a camera system or a network printer. Port forwarding used to be a lot more common in the past, but now a lot of devices have their own cloud interface, making port forwarding unnecessary. But if you still need to do port forwarding, you can do it from this page. So here's an example of my NVR that I've port forwarded on the network. So this makes it so that I can remotely log in to my NVR simply by typing in my external IP address from any different location. And here's an example of me using my cell phone on the mobile data. And even though I'm not in my network, I can still log into the web interface for my cameras because we've done the port forwarding on the Reyee router. Of course, opening ports in your router is a security potentially vulnerability that could be exploited. And while I believe that the odds are quite low that anything would happen, if you want to improve your security, you can open up a VPN tunnel, which is also supported on Reyee routers. Reyee routers have support for multiple VPN protocols, including L2TP, PPTP, OpenVPN, and WireGuard. There's a ton of complexity when it comes to setting up a VPN, but Reyee actually makes it quite easy to use. As you can see here, I've got both OpenVPN and WireGuard working, and I was able to get it working without too much difficulty. So to set up a VPN on Reyee, you want to navigate to the VPN settings, which is under device config and then gateway. Then you need to set up a VPN policy, which you can do by clicking this blue button right here. And from this menu, we can see a bunch of different options, including site-to-site VPN, WireGuard VPN, and client-to-site VPN. So let me quickly show you how to set up a WireGuard VPN and make it working. So in order to do this, you need to choose a name for the service. So I'm just going to call this WireGuard 1. Then you need to choose a server address. So the server address is basically going to be your external IP address, which you can find if you go to whatismyip.com. This is going to be your server address for the WireGuard interface. So let's go ahead and copy it here. Then for the port, you can basically choose any port. So I'm going to choose 12345. Then we need to set the interface IP. So this is basically where your clients are going to connect to within your network, and this should not overlap any of your existing IP ranges. So since my main network is on 10.0.0.1/24, I don't want this to overlap. So I'm going to set this to 10.0.2.1/24. And finally, for the DNS server, You can set this to whichever DNS server you prefer, but I'm going to set this to Google's DNS, which is 8.8.8, just to keep it simple. Then you want to add a client to the WireGuard. So the way that WireGuard works is that all your clients have to be added first. So I'm going to go ahead and create a name for this client. So this is going to be for my phone. I'm going to call this Sony Xperia. Okay. And for the interface IP, this is going to be where the client connects to. So because we set the interface as 10.0.2.1, we're going to set this to 10.0.2.2. Okay, so this is going to be the first client that's connecting to our WireGuard interface. Everything else we can leave it as default. And then we're going to go ahead and download this client configuration to save it for later. So this gives me a file that we're going to upload onto the phone, and we're going to use that to connect. So make sure you save this file. Then we're going to click add. Now everything has been done on the router. So to connect to the WireGuard VPN, we're going to have to set it up on the client. So I'm in the WireGuard app. I want to click on the plus button at the bottom right, and I'm going to choose import from file or archive. Then I'm going to choose the WireGuard file that I downloaded earlier. And as you can see, it actually gives me an error that says unable to import tunnel. I think it said invalid name. So the reason for this is that the file name has to be 15 characters or less, and it can only include numbers. It can only include letters or underscore. So let me just quickly change that to just a very short name. Okay, so I changed the name of the file, so it's less than 15 characters. Then I'm going to select it. Now you can see that it's been imported. So this is the interface here. It's called WG_Sony_1. All we have to do is toggle this on, and we should be able to see the traffic sending through. The traffic is going through. It says it's doing a handshake, so that means that it's successfully connected. And if I go to whatismyipaddress.com, we can see that my IP address is showing as 142.114.89.134. So basically, it thinks that I'm actually using the internet from my office, but it's not the case. I'm actually using my mobile data. So that means that the VPN is working. And we can confirm this because if we go back to the VPN and we disable the interface and we refresh this page, we get a completely different IP address. A little bit technical, but that's how you set up a WireGuard VPN on the Reyee router. All right, so I've pretty much covered all the features, but there is one more thing that I want to share. If you go to the devices page, then you click on one of your devices. So let's say the PoE switch. Then at the top right, there's an option called eWeb. This allows us to create a tunnel directly into the device. So basically, we're accessing the local interface of the device through the web. So for this to work, you're going to click on Create Tunnel, then select Open with Domain. This is going to load up the web page, and you're going to be able to log in to your devices through the web portal. So this eWeb actually works with all Reyee devices except for their PoE switches. So if you have a network with only PoE switches, you will not be able to create the tunnel unless there's another Reyee device on the network that also supports the eWeb tunnel, such as their router, the wireless bridge, or the access point. Now, why would you want to use the eWeb when you can basically access all the settings through the cloud portal? What's the purpose? Well, there are actually some settings that are unique to the local web interface of your device. So let me give you an example. So if we take an eWeb tunnel and we go into this wireless bridge, we're going to see some settings that are not necessarily available on the Ruijie Cloud portal. So we're in the web interface of our wireless bridge, and it actually shows you really nicely here. We can see this is our receiver base station. It's connected. You can see all the transmitters that it's connected to, as well as the signal strength. And you can even open this antenna alignment menu, and this is going to show you how far off you are from being aligned to between the receiver and the transmitter. So this is a really great interface, and if we were to come back into the cloud portal, we would see something a little bit similar. As you can see here, we can still see the receiver and the transmitter, but it's not quite as nice as it was in the local interface because you can't see all your devices together at the same time. So in general, the eWeb gives you another way to configure your devices, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility if you need it. So I know this was a bit of a longer video, but I really wanted to give you the full picture of Reyee products and show you exactly what they can do and how useful their cloud portal is. I covered a lot of topics really quickly in this video, so if there's something you want me to cover in more detail, please let me know in the comments below, and I will consider making that into its own standalone video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope to see you in the next video.